The reading life was inspired without question by my mother. And I did not realize this, that when my mother read to me and my brothers and sisters every day before we went to bed at night, I did not realize that would become my writing voice, the voice I would hear when I'd go to a table. That would become the voice I'd read to my own children, when I taught in school, when I read something to my wife. I did not understand she was plotting this thing to take over my life. Because one thing about my mother, she made me obsessed with books. And not only obsessed, I lived through books. And not living through books was not living itself. And my mother, we're not sure she got out of high school, but she taught herself, and she ate up every single library of every town we ever entered. No one ever checked out more books than Peg Conroy. You know, if it was up to me to write the book, and I did not have publishers and modern readers, I'd make this book 5,000 pages long. I describe every book that moved me, knocked my socks off, knocked me out of my seat, changed my life, and I think books are life-changing. I try to write about the life-changing books. I try to write the books that led me to others, and that is one of the great gifts of books. You read one, and it leads you on a pathway that you did not know you would take. When I went to England, I did not have any idea. By turning a corner, I would read the complete works of Dickens. Turn another corner, I'd read the complete works of Thackeray. Look across the street, and Yeats would flower open for me. Jane Austen. I mean, it occurred to me so many times that I had to become aware of just what would be happening at the time it happened. But that was one of the glories of living to me, not one of the sorrows. I think reading taught me how to be a man. Okay, you read about certain men in life, and Iago didn't hold much for me. I didn't see where you go too far that way. But if you read about Hamlet, you get into Shakespeare. And when Shakespeare defined things that seemed human to you beyond belief and led you again to other books. And I think it was Shakespeare that led me to Tolstoy. And I thought when I came across Tolstoy, those great men and women of the Russian steppes, of Moscow and St. Petersburg, I thought he was teaching me something about how to be alive as a man, how to treat a woman, how to be attracted to a woman. When I read Henry James' Portrait of a Lady, I thought, I'd like to fall in love with Isabel Archer. I'd like to fall in love with a woman like that. I'd like to know how to treat a woman like that, to be a gentleman like that. But then you have the American West, and you go in that direction. The American West will lead you to the tragedy of the Native American. Because I'm from the South, you're led instantly to the tragedy of slavery and my people's part in slavery. So it's a never-ending window, opening up all the time and mirroring back and showing you things that you get from reading and I think from nothing else. I got bebopped on the head by Thomas Wolfe when I was 15 years old. I had this English teacher. He was Southern and called me carpetbag and scalawag. And he was absolutely charismatic. And Gene Norris gave me this book, Look, Homer Angel. I was 15 years old, and he said, I believe you are ready now for the many pleasures of Thomas Wolfe. Ready? I could have been sued for Wolfe for plagiarism from that day forward to today. His estate could have sued me and won. I went completely crazy. And what he sent me crazy over, here was a book told from the point of a young boy about my age, and it was filled with passion and loneliness and sorrow and longing, every single thing I was feeling at that particular time in my life. And he would write with passion, or this furious father. I thought I knew from my own experience that father was beating him up, beating his mother up. I brought something to Thomas Wolfe that I'm not sure Thomas Wolfe knew he had. But that was a book that was the ignition thing. That was a book when I knew I was on a rocket trip and that this was going to take me. Before the year was over, I'd read every single thing he'd written, read every biography here, and so had my mother, and so had my sister. And so that's when a dialogue began, about books in our family. My readers and my fans often identify with crazy people in my book. And they can tell me someone will tell me things like this. I can tell you already know I was in the insane asylum for 5 years before I wrote this letter. Yeah, I have no idea you've ever been there, ever will be there. But the things about writing about families in trouble, people living on the edge, people not being able to get it all right, to put it all together as what you'd like to think of yourself as a normal family. I had this one guy, and Sandra knows about this guy because he's become emblematic to me. And I think The Prince of Times just came out. And he says, "Hey, man, your family's nuts, huh?" I said, "Yeah, pretty much so." He said, "Boy, you can sure tell it from reading that book." I said, "Yeah, you can." I said, "How's your family, pal?" And he looks at me and says, "Oh, my family's great, great." I said, "Now that we're having the conversation, let's be honest. How far do we have to go before we hit the first crazy in your family? Mom, dad, sister, brother, aunt." His wife broke and finally said, "His mother's nuts. She's completely nuts." And I said, "See what I mean?" I said, "Generally, it's not far from any of us. It's around the corner there. Sometimes in my family, it's much closer than I'm comfortable with. But when I write a book, it also gives you something to talk about." I would like people, my readers, my fans, to get out of my reading life this. I would like them to see it as the beginning of a journey. I'd like them to see what happened to me in my journey. Because the one thing I can promise them, if they take it seriously, if they are serious readers, if they are serious imaginers, if they are serious thinkers, they don't know where this journey is going to end. It's a voyage of a lifetime. It'll end with my last conscious thought on earth. It's taken me places I could not believe. I've traveled parts of the globe I would not be there except for reading. I've visited the graves of poets in Crete. I've visited Balzac's grave in France. I've gone to graves all over Europe just because I fell in love with these men and women who are no longer alive, who once filled my brain with utter wonder, who wanted me to write like them, who wanted me to make characters and build characters, invent cities, invent people that were so magnificent, people would never be able to keep their hands off my books again, like these ones that went before me, like these writers who made up my reading life.